A lot of the pages of these magazines just fucking garbage. Do you know what I mean? There was a time where, you know, you picked up a hairdresser magazine and there was nothing but absolute masterpieces inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No,
now
that's
there is a lot of participation medals going on.
The one thing from store owners is staff and new staff and training. It's a conversation I've had pretty much everyone I've had on this podcast over the last year. Have you cracked it?
No. You know, it's bloody hard, man. The strong men's haircuts in the 80s, they were all craft. They were crafty. This is where you could see the technique starting to build in men's hair.
But there's still it is still a craft. I still meet people, you know, who still really have perfected it and just do beautiful work and own beautiful companies that, you know, me and you would both be jealous of. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's stepped in to properly take on this new generation. It does feel lost. Hi, welcome to the Noble Barber podcast. I'm Anthony Laban, and we'll be talking to various people in the industry who've made it and their journey and how they got here. Talking honest, cutting through the crap, and making sure your story and their story is heard to help your business and hopefully mine. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the Noble Barber podcast. I'm Anthony Laban, and I'm here today, with Johnny Barber. How you doing, mate?
Good.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for coming down. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
We've spoken a fair bit over the past couple of weeks or months before this. But first time I've properly met you, so thank you very much.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
One of the reasons I really wanted to get you to come on was I keep getting spoken to by our lovely audience that they want more about how to run a shop, how actually running a shop is. And I've spoken to quite a few guys that are quite young to it or are in the new wave of opening it. Whereas from your point of view, you know, not only have you been doing it a while, you know, you got flagship shops. I mean, you know, you really do have a strong stable of shops. They look amazing and they've had staying power. So you've got living proof that modern barbering isn't that new, that high quality, good end barbershops aren't just kind of trumpers and nobody else. And so I think your view on having a shop, running a shop, state of our industry, state of running a shop, and how running a shop in 2024 compared to 1994 looks. And so that's kind of my itinerary for you. We tend to start these things with a bit of a rundown. And I know you've been in the game a while, but if you give us if we could do a quick run through of how you ended up opening up the first Barber.
So,
and then go on from there.
First, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. And but I suppose to go back before we go forward is like, I've been at this since I was at school. You know, started as a Saturday boy, the usual story. Went working for a guy, stayed with him for a couple of years, kind of went as far as I could with him. And then I started working with another guy who at the time was really, really ahead of his game. Really, his name was Brian Hackett. And like, fucking streets ahead. What we're doing now, claiming is the way to do things, he was doing it 30 years ago, right? Figaro Barbershop in Limerick City, right? You know, he was doing appointments, he was doing, you know, hot towel shaves, he was doing brandies with the shaves, you know, beer, coffee, you know, it was proper high end. You know, he had the hydraulic or the electric Belmont chairs, all that kind of thing. So this all isn't that fucking new.
No, definitely not.
Then was with him. Then I opened my own place in 2003, Johnny's Barbershop, Castletroy, in Limerick City, or just outside the city, and had that for years. I only sold it a few years ago, and that was a really, really busy shop, right? So I had a lot of the sporting guys from around Limerick. Limerick's a very, very big rugby city. So I had a lot of those guys, a couple of, you know, local radio guys, TV guys coming in. So the shop had a really, really good reputation, and my business partner here, Morgan Lee, he's his name. He's a Limerick native as well. And he had the Barton Arcade in Deansgate, Manchester. He was always come back every couple of weeks. He's a little boy living there. I'd say little boy, he's a grown man now. But and he used to always say, like, you know, this is class, this is really cool. Because, you know, I did the whole thing. I had the bar in the corner and had, you know, it was service. We dressed well coming to work. And, you know, it was a good crack. It was always a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
I was always
and this is a good 20 years ago.
This was 16, 17 years ago when we started the conversation. About 16 years ago when we started the conversation, right? And, or was it? No, it was about 14 years ago. Sorry, correct myself, right? And so eventually, it was a kind of a strong arm. You know what I mean? Strong arm, you need to go over and have a great unit in Manchester in the Barton Arcade. As I said, he used to own the Barton Arcade. Over and had a look, and I kind of said it to my wife. And again, this is, bear in mind now, I just had a new baby. My daughter was like 15, 16 at the time. And it was the most stupid thing I've ever done. Think about it.
Yeah, no, I think everyone who opens a business
it was
thinks
stupid.
that. Yeah.
It was actually stupid, right? But there was no talking to me. I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So I did it, right? And opened the first Barber in November 2013. With the intention of, at worst, it'd be a barbershop. At best, be a good little business. Do you know what I mean? That's as big as I thought it was going to be. And, you know, we kind of courted a bit of controversy at the start and ran with it. And within about 3 to 4 months, I knew something good, really good was happening. I mean, it was busy. I mean, really, really, really busy.
And were you still 50-50? Were you
back and forth? I was working here, like I'd go 3 weeks here, a week at home. 3 weeks here, a week at home, that type of thing. And it was I've never seen, you know, it was the busiest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was savage. But bear in mind, there was nothing in Manchester at the time. You know what I mean? There was me and there was another brand down the road. And they were the only ones I looked at, do you understand? But when I came over doing a recce on it, there was nothing I rated in Manchester except these guys. I'm not going to name them, but they know who they are. You know, they had a very, very strong brand within Manchester. A really right way of doing things. Do you know what I mean? They did it right and they did it well. I thought, right, okay, well, they're the only fucking ones I have to worry about. Do you know what I mean? So I just, you know, and I've always kind of done it with like not worrying what's going on outside the door. I just control what I can inside the door and let the outside do its thing, right? So, yeah, mad busy. Then we started getting contacted by other places. You know what I mean? Liverpool 1 was just after redeveloping the whole that side of town. They kind of got onto us and we ended up opening one there. And not long after that, we had landlords from Leeds contacting us, and then we had places in London contacting us, and you know, it just snowballed. It was just like, yeah, okay. Before I knew it, like I was, you know, getting ready to open the third shop, and I said to my wife, "Fuck, you're gonna have to move over here," you know. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, like the clamp bits, you know, you packed the car on the boat and off we went, and the rest is history.
And the family's all here now?
All here. They've been here 9 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Now, so I think I first encountered you around that first year or two of Manchester, because you kind of hit the industry scene quite hard. You know, you were popping up. Yeah. You were kind of legendary opening of an envelope. If there was an event on, you were the fella doing men's haircuts in the corner.
Yeah.
Lots of kind of podium stuff, and you know, you really did hit it hard. And you know, your Larry suit and your noise in the corner really domainated what you were up to.
Yeah, still do that.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you know, it was making a noise in every possible way at a time where, you know, barbering it was on its way, but it wasn't really hitting out. I think 14, 15 years ago, it was starting to murmur. I think the last 10 years, we've seen a big change.
Yeah.
How did you find the industry coming into it?
I think it's always the same. I still think it's the same. I think there is an attitude towards barbers that, quite frankly, annoys me. You know, I think I've always likened it to we're the cousin that gets invited to the birthday party, but not the wedding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of they like to have the cousin at the birthday party because, you know, he says the wrong thing at the wrong time, and you know he's a little bit bold. You know what I mean? But you're not coming to the fucking wedding because he'll embarrass us. Do you know that kind of thing? That's what I think hairdressing industry thinks of barbering. You know, and
why do you think that though? Where do you get that from?
I just think because, you know, they were nowhere, like the hairdressing industry was nowhere to be seen when we were still fucking spitting on the floors and charging 20 quid or 10 quid, whatever, right? I think as it became popular and as it became profitable, all of a sudden, oh fuck, we want a piece of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So next thing you had them all like, oh, bring him in. And then you had kind of salons, with male specialists, and all of a sudden they were trying to almost not outdo you, but, oh yeah, come to us for your men's hair grooming needs, because we don't use clippers, we only use scissors. This kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, and it said a bit uneasy with me, man, to be honest, and I was, the one thing I've always done is I've always kind of stayed in my own lane. I never tried to be anything that I'm not. I've never treated anybody differently than they are. You know what I mean? I find people as I get them, or I treat people as I find them, should I say. And, all of a sudden, you're going into these rooms, and there's some people who are really nice. You know what I mean? Then there was other people not so nice. And all of a sudden, you kind of had people, well, you can't say that. Oh, and what do you mean you don't do that? What do you mean you don't do this?
Yeah, good bit of judgment going on.
You're kind of going, hang on a fucking second. You know what I mean? I didn't invite myself here. You invited me. And now you're going to tell me how to play the game? And you're kind of going...
But you come from a point where, and I mean, I'm a bit older than you, but I've been in our industry since the 80s, and have seen, from my point of view in London, always the very high end of men's and ladies' haircuts. And my barber shops are in that sort of kind of grouping, I guess. But, so we come from that point that even then, the quality of the haircuts were top. It's not, for us, great haircutting and great haircuts isn't a new thing.
No, of course not.
It's maybe being repackaged for the social media age or for a different medium. The industry certainly has embraced, and the modern Barber and Barber Evo. There's now more mainstream media talking about barbering and giving it more of a platform, which has got to be a good thing in itself.
I'd say yes and no on that. I'd say yes and no. I think there's a lot of the pages of these magazines just fucking garbage. Do you know what I mean? You see, I
think you could do that about Vogue, GQ, and
you could argue the point. But there was a time where you picked up a hairdressing magazine and it was nothing but absolute masterpieces inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No,
now there is a lot of participation medals going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I disagree with that.
Just because people submit something doesn't mean it's worthy, right? And I've done collections that I looked at and they've been, I thought they were great at the time. I looked at them again and I was shit. That's a bit shit. And I'm not trying to judge other people's work, because other people's work is none of my business, right? But what's being put out there as barbering, do you know what I mean? I said, creativity is not always a good thing. You know what I mean? It's not. And I still stand by it. I don't think there's any room for creativity in men's hair. There's creativity in a manner of how you do things. You know what I mean? But the actual process and the end result of men's hair.
Yeah. Well, I guess in store though, you are, what we're looking at is that level of quality, and the experience for guys. The one thing I definitely value in my store, and certainly seems evident in yours, is the kind of membership, if you like, the guys that are coming in and feel like they're at their place, having a coffee, getting a haircut, catching up with their barber, that relationship, and obviously getting a good haircut.
Yeah.
The magazine, the media world has always kind of embraced something and promoted something to be edgier, that you're never going to be, no one's ever going to come in with a picture of that wants you to reproduce it.
Yeah, again, why give it? I think why give it the platform then? Do you know what I mean? I said, like before we got cracking, American Crew were doing it 30 years ago.
Yeah,
done it better than anyone else, and I still think to this day no one has done it better. I think they just nailed it. I think what they've done for men's hair, men's attitude around men, the attitude of men's hair around men's hair. I don't think it's ever been replicated. I don't think it can be. I think the closest thing we've come to it is probably Scrotum, and they've done it on a much harder level. You know what I mean? But I think other than that, I don't think it's been done.
I think I agree. I think American Crew kind of bridges right the way across. It doesn't exclude.
It doesn't exclude. And this is not me, with my fucking bearskinning club. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shouting about fucking toxic masculinity. It's not about that. It's about, what we see in barbershops. You know what I mean? And what we see as men, and I think it's okay to want to be, a masculine man. You don't have to be, you don't have to be an arsehole to be a masculine man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be chauvinist, or you don't have to be a fucking misogynist to be a masculine man.
But what we have seen, though, is we've moved away. I think the one thing that I think does seem almost dead now is the kind of unisex salon. It does seem that now more men are looking for a barbershop.
Yeah, but there's more barbershops.
And there's more barbershops.
But there's more barbershops catering to women.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's loads of, like, Jesus Christ. When was this a thing? You know what I mean? And like, listen, this is an argument I've had time and time again, and it's not something I wish to.
No, but if we go back to your store, or all your stores that are pumping, they're in really busy centres, they're in busy spaces. The one thing from store owners is staff and new staff and training. It's a conversation I've had with pretty much everyone I've had on this podcast over the last year. Have you cracked it?
No. It's bloody hard, man. Do you know what I mean?
How are you staffing? How are you?
We're understaffed in every shop. Every single shop, we need staff. I take them. We've loads of customers, not enough staff. And one good one, 2 good ones is worth 4 bad ones.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't get the good ones. Because I already have loads of good ones. Right, I have some not so good ones, but the attitude is right, and we can work with that, But the pool, I said this to you already, the pool of employable talent is getting smaller and smaller. Why? Because the people who are really good are either doing their own thing or they're happy where they are. My place is case in point to it. So you have to build from within. You know what I mean? Very rarely is somebody going to come into you that ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody who can cut hair well, someone who can shave well, someone who's presentable, someone who's on time. I generally think you get them very, very good and very unreliable, or very reliable and not so good. I'd actually rather the not so good and very reliable, because you can actually teach pretty much anyone with the right attitude.
And do you do a lot of training yourselves? Have you got a trainer that works in your company?
All the shops kind of we still run the apprenticeships the old way, right? So we kind of have, at the start, they do models at nighttime once a week. We say models, we do dummy heads and, a bit of theory work and stuff like that. When they get to a level that they can actually get from A to B, on the blockhead, we start them with models. Models then bring them in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mornings, for about an hour, 2 hours, right? And then just progressing. One of the lads will always keep an eye over it, but we still find it very difficult to do what we did years ago, because we had a hell of a lot more staff years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the process is taking a little bit longer than it used to, but ultimately it's still working. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
is that backed up with a training provider?
No.
So you don't MVQ?
I think it's all nonsense.
You just...
You
qualify them and you guarantee them a job at the end of it.
That's it. And if they, listen, I think the brand Barber speaks for itself, and I can guarantee you most fellas who've worked in my shops will get a job anywhere. Do you know what I mean? If people see Barber on a CV, they'll take them.
Yeah.
They will take them. You know what I mean? And that's not me being big-headed. I don't necessarily train all the guys. I don't train a lot of them anymore. I still work with the older lads, and we do a bit with them. Kind of improving and stuff like that, but the babies, I don't spend a lot of time. I don't have time.
No,
But
and what about the kind of you're saying you'll get someone who's got a bit of grassroots, has been doing a bit, has maybe done some courses, has been working in a store that's maybe not to the same level that you're used to, or for whatever reason they've been barbering for a while, a year or whatever. How do you take those on, and will you polish them up?
Yeah, you can polish them to a degree. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes, you've got so many different ways, because this is the problem, and it's not necessarily a problem, but the thing is, there's so many different noises. You know what I mean? You've got, what they call the section gods, and you've got the clipper jockey. There's a million little names for everybody, right? So everyone's got a little bit of everything, because there's no one way to train anymore, as I said, because people are doing training courses. And all of a sudden, they're starting training courses, with a watered down version of what they learned. The next thing, the guy who did that training course is going to do another training course. And he's got a watered down version of what he learned. So they don't really understand what they're doing. They understand the removal of the hair. They don't understand why they're doing it. But the other side of it is, I think, the over-reliance on like super complex technique on hair that's, 2, 3, 4 inches long. I think it's a bit wasted. Do you know what I mean? I think if you understand technique, you don't necessarily always have to apply it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So when people really push for technically strong haircuts, that's brilliant, right? But the reality is technically strong haircuts on a certain length can look quite ugly, right? So you need to be able to understand the technique enough that you can kind of bend it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? You can kind of break it.
Hair type, and certainly with guys, that the texture and thickness of the hair varies dramatically around the head.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes the wonkier haircuts are the better looking haircuts.
Some of the best haircuts that you'll ever see
are all a bit pissed.
Because it's the person. It's
exactly that. Yeah,
it's the person who wears it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you go back, like my two favourite eras of men's hair are the 50s and the 80s. Right? I think you
couldn't get them too further apart.
You couldn't.
Mate.
And that's the thing. I like the polishness of the 50s, and I like the looseness, and I like for want of a better word, I hate saying it, but the creativity of the 80s haircuts. You had the wedges, and you had the softness. I like the softness of it.
I mean, that's my. I was learning all my craft in the 80s with all those guys.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you said. You said craft. When you look at the strong men's haircuts in the 80s, they were all craft. They were crafty. Do you know what I mean? And they were strong. And you could see, this is where you could see the technique starting to build in men's hair.
But there's still it is still a craft. I still meet people, like yourself, and there are a few, there are quite a few, who still really have perfected it and just do beautiful work and own beautiful companies that me and you would both be jealous of. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's stepped in to properly take on this new generation. It does feel lost. I think with hairdressing, you had the kind of 365, you had the Tony and Guy that had a fairly solid training process that everyone to some degree followed. And obviously, the heartland of Sassoons. With barbering, that does seem to have, like you say, petered into piecemeal training courses.
It is, because, the only people pushing the short courses are the people doing the short courses, right? Because everybody else who doesn't stand by them knows that they're not fit for purpose, right? So unless you can profit from them, you know what I mean, which a lot of people are, then they're actually pointless. You know what I mean? I've had this argument with people who have these 12-week courses. I said, well, right, okay, we'll train 4 of them, put 20 grand of your own money down, open a little shitty banger shop, and leave them off unsupervised with your name over the fucking door.
Yeah,
and no help.
No
help.
But I think equally, I mean, this is an issue. Whichever way we slice it, there is a huge amount of people out there that are paying £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 to do these 12-week courses, and they're coming out with, I guess, a level of basic skills that is the start of an apprenticeship. And if you're running a store, you like yourself now, we're all in the position that we haven't got enough staff. You're not looking round to 3 blokes sitting on a bench with nothing to do. We're looking round at 13 clients sitting on the bench with no one to do them. And that's the issue and the reality for most of us.
Yeah.
If you've got someone that can come along, has already done, understands the kind of basics around a haircut, that you can use it as a starting point. And I think that's the issue, that these guys should be arriving after 12 weeks, raring to be perfected, raring to learn.
But they won't be.
And that's the issue, that they're not understanding that that's an introduction. It's a taster into what the industry's about. And now you've got to go off and learn your craft.
But they've been told. Yeah,
but I mean, I think from the industry point of view, we've then got to back it up with something. Do you know what I mean? This is the bit that I get lost with. That we've got all these people that are wanting to come into it, are spending money, but we're not seeing them come through. They're not turning into barbers. So we must be either turning them off, that they're kind of spending their 5-6 grand, turning up in 2 or 3 shops, realising they've been sold a pup or feeling like they haven't got it, and then walking away from the industry. rather than us being able to find a way of grabbing them and pushing them through maybe a speeded up apprenticeship, but still a proper skeleton, bare bones apprenticeship that they learn the craft again. And no one seems to be doing this.
I've no problem with people doing that, and I've no problem with, you know, people speeding up an apprenticeship, right? I still think, you know, like when I had my academy, it was a 6-month course, right, in the classroom, and then it was a 6-month apprenticeship in the shop.
Yeah.
So it was 12 months in total, right? Every single guy who went through my apprentice program ended up working for me on the shop floor. 2 of them now have their own shops, doing very, very well, right? But the issue I find is when people come out of these fast-track courses, because they've been told that they're going to get a job as a barber, then they come in and we explain to them. I don't even court it anymore. I just say no to them. They come in, they spend 2, 3, 4 months with us, still not seeing the progression, because they're not bringing enough models in. You know, they keep doing the same fucking thing. Everything is a skin fade. Everything is a skin taper. There's no bit of craftsmanship in it. And all of a sudden, they're at a level where they can kind of remove hair to a satisfactory degree. They'll get a job in a shop.
Yeah.
Well, they mention me my shop or your shop or someone else's shop. A shop will employ them. They'll get £500 a week into their arse pocket, taken out of the till.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's why we're losing them. We're losing them because there isn't enough, and I'm going to say, like, unity amongst the industry, because it's a very, very schneid place. Do you know what I mean? Everybody is kind of giving each other handshakes and high five and a whole lot and talking shit behind everyone's back. It's like a schoolyard.
But you're seeing now, I mean, we spoke about this before, that there's a multitude of stores now. You know, when I opened up my first barber shop, I was on my own. I was surrounded by hairdressers, and we got busy really quick, and it was fantastic. Had an awful lot of how much, and then realised that, you know, Tony and Guy up the road were charging you 50, 60 quid for a very mediocre haircut, and they were coming to us for 35 for a quality haircut. Now, the walk to my shop, I'm passing 7, 8.
Yeah.
We're still busy. Yeah, I'm not arguing with that. But where is the unity? Why are we not coming together as a stronger group? All I hear is that they're all fronts. Yeah, I walk past most of them. I think they're trying to get their shops trying to be busy.
I don't think they're all fronts, and, you know, and to say all the fronts are all a different colour than us, I'd say that's been very, very naive. You know, there's plenty of fronts that look like me and you.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think a lot of them are just trying to make a living.
Yeah,
and I think
a lot of them are.
I think there's no reason that, but, you know, hairdressing was always known as 1 in 3 would go bust in a year, and I would have thought that the barbering industry is pretty much going to fall in line with that demographic.
I think if they monitor it quicker, if they monitor it better, it'd be a hell of a lot more than 1 in 3 going bust, because it's, you know, a lot of people are dealing in cash. When I say cash, I mean as in, yeah, they're taking card, but, you know, they're not accounting for the business to run. Do you know what I mean? They're living out of the till. Do you know what I mean? And what comes into the till, minus the rent, rates if they have it, depending where they are, minus the wages, the rest is for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? With no,
I think that's it. I mean, you know, if you start writing, you know, I always think with any business I've ever got involved in, if I can't make it make sense on the back of an envelope, it's probably not going to make sense on a 14 pages of a pad. And if you're looking at a shop that's apparently doing less than 90 grand a year turnover with 2 or 3 staff in there, it's not.
No, of course not.
And those trouble me much more than
considering most fellas want to be earning between, you know, most fellas at a minimum they want to be earning 35, 40, some of them 50, whatever. There you go. You got 2 fellas earning 35 grand. Now you're at 70 grand. That's with 2 fellas. Yeah. That's before you pay the rent.
You've got to pay for the shop and turn the lights on. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, you know, we all know that's a joke. But listen, that's not my argument.
No, you know, but I mean, let's just bringing it back though to Barber, because like I say, you know, I've got 2 sons in their early 20s who both think Spitalfields is the centre point of the world, and I'm sure residents of Manchester and Liverpool and all feel that that's it for yours. How do you make them survive in such a ferocious market, in probably the most expensive rental properties in the country? And I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you don't want to say it, but I mean, what are you paying for a fit out? They're beautiful.
I mean, they're expensive. But the thing is, you hit the nail on the head there. Survive. That's what I'm doing. We're surviving. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing okay. You know what I mean? As in, we're doing well, but we're not making fortunes.
No. That's the big. That's
we have done very well in the past, and we will do very well again. But it's that.
It's hard at the moment.
It's that. It's very, very hard. But, you know, I've always kind of worked for the business. Do you understand? You know, I've always kind of, you know, I remember years ago, you know, a fella said to me, he said, you know, when you have your own business, you know, take what you need from it, right? But make sure you need what you take, right? And by that, he meant, you know, you need food, you need shopping, you need to pay your mortgage, you need to, you know, and you need to enjoy yourself to a degree. You don't need everything else. Do you understand? That's what you want, right? And I think I've always kind of run the business with that attitude in mind that, you know, if it's there, happy days. If it's not, you can't make it there because you have to cut your cloth. And I think, you know, I'm lucky in the sense that I do have a few shops.
So why do you think it's harder now? I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but why do you think it's so much harder now?
I think obviously you've got more competition. You know, competition is the word. I don't see it as competition, but customers have more options, right? You know, a lot of people, you know, they're in a rush, you know, so if they can't get in with you, then I think appointments have fucking killed us. I think, you know, the loss of the walk-in model, because we were all walk-in before Bar London.
I was before.
Right?
I was. Both mine in London were
Bar London
pre-COVID.
and it was all walk-in. Now we had, like, Manchester was so busy, there was options, right? So I had 6 chairs upstairs, 5 chairs downstairs, right? And I had the guys, the big clienteles used to work an appointment, they were downstairs. And then everyone else was upstairs, right? So we were busy, man, really, really busy. So if you had an appointment, you knew you just walked in downstairs, the lads would see to you, and if you didn't have an appointment, everyone knew to sit upstairs. Now we just have the upstairs. We don't have the 5 barbers downstairs.
Right.
So we used to have like 12, 13 barbers in Manchester. At one stage, I think we have 5 now, 6. You know, we could do with 7. You know, Liverpool, we used to have. We have 6 chairs there. We used to have 8 guys working there, so we had 6 guys working every day. We lost Birmingham after COVID, but Birmingham was our busiest shop at one time. We had 8 chairs there. We had 14 barbers. You know what I mean? So we had 8 guys working every day. Savage busy. Fucking relentless. But it all changed because people, now it's a case of like, you fit me in. Yeah, take a seat with you in a few minutes. No, I can't wait. You know, I get it. People are in a hurry.
Yeah.
People are in a rush.
But we have lost all the icing off the cake at the moment.
I think so. The cream is gone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
it.
we are so. Like, and don't get me wrong. Listen, I'm not fucking sitting at the bank machine on Thursday night waiting for the wages to drop. You know what I mean? I'm all right. You know what I mean? We can survive.
But I mean, I think there's there is that issue of, you know, the integrity to keep doing it well, even though you're not being. Even though you're not putting the last instalment down on your yacht in the south of France.
Yeah, but it's a cycle, you see. Yeah. My yacht's paid for, it's fine. But like, it's a cycle.
Yeah, and
I've seen it before.
Last man standing is always the game to play.
And I'm not too worried. I'm annoyed, but I'm not too worried about it because I know it goes like that. Yeah. It's like the property game. Do you know what I mean? You see, you know, it's up and it's down, it's up and down. You just hope you hope you buy it the lowest and you sell it the highest. Do you know what I mean? And that is the. By the way, I'm not in the property game. Just, do you know what I mean? But do you know what I'm saying? It's a case of like. We are in a lull at the moment, but I do see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in the sense that, you know, there's less acceptance of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the thing, you know, and from a customer point of view, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, we're finding our customers, and I've always said, like, our customers are quite fussy. You know, our price point, you know what I mean, how the shops look, you're going to attract a certain customer, right? So they're going to expect a certain level, right? So bear in mind, you know, a good haircut is not something to shout about. You know, it's a fucking bare minimum. If somebody comes in and they're paying 35, 45 quid, whatever. It's a bare fucking minimum. It's everything else. And I think that's what was lost over the last few years, right? There was no kind of bend towards a fussy customer. A fussy customer is he was presumed an arsehole. He's not. The difference between fussy and an arsehole to the untrained eye is actually minute, right? But if you understand what you're looking for, he's just fussy. And that fussiness might be born out of nerves. It might be born out of, you know,
if you know your stuff, you can turn an arsehole into one of your best customers.
Yeah, you can. But like sometimes, you know, people might have had a bad experience, or they might have, you know, I hate to say social anxiety, but you know, they might feel comfortable, and getting their words across it might sound different than what they actually mean. And if you don't understand that, and this is where the soft skills come in, and soft skills are more important than the hard skills, in my opinion, right? So if you don't understand that, you're going, he's a fucking cunt, whatever, like, you know, get rid of, you know, it's not for you, get out. Now, there is a difference, right? Because cunt is a cunt. I mean, we don't tolerate them. No. You know what I mean? If get out you go, and we've done it, and we do it all the time.
Yeah, very important.
You know what I mean?
To do it.
You got to hit it quick, right? But the guy who is fussy, they're the guys you want. You want the fussy guys, because when you win over the fussy guys, they're loyal, right? And they're so loyal, you become their barber, us my barber, right? Yeah. And then they tell their friends. Then their friends tell their friends. And all of a sudden, you got a good client who's going to be loyal to you, who appreciates what you do, you know. And I think understanding the difference between direction and instruction, that's another big one, right? So what happened, I think, after COVID was like everyone became like super selfish, right? And all of a sudden, the respect for the service provider became quite small, right? And I found there was a lot of people that instruct you rather than direct you, right?
Right.
And that didn't sit well with me. No. Do you know what I mean?
But I think an awful lot of YouTube watching invented an awful lot of people who were a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, but people thinking like what you want and what you can have are two different things, right? You know, you can have the haircut that your hair wants you to have. You know what I mean? You can't have the haircut that your hair doesn't want you to have. So you're getting fellas with a fucking head like me showing you a picture of fucking Tom Hardy. Yeah. And you go, my wife wants me to look like Tom Hardy. So, newsflash, bud. My wife wants me to look like fucking Tom Hardy. You know what I mean?
But you know, the one thing is, in all of this, how does you opened up Barber in Manchester on a whim, a bad idea, instruction, whatever you want to class it with. But you opened it with an idea. You know, there was you had that image, which I didn't know the store in Limerick, but it was presumably very different to the Manchester.
Quite similar.
Was it?
Quite similar, just on a lower scale.
So you're and then really from Manchester, they have a look. You know, it definitely has. You wouldn't confuse it with another brand.
No.
Where does that come from? Because I think, like you're saying, that what we're expecting in this cycle is we'll see the death of the beige and the stores that really don't have their attitude and don't have their. How did that come about? How do you have? This is my shop. It was like pride in it.
It was a cocktail shaker, really, of a few different ideas. I've always been fascinated by Las Vegas. Been fascinated with Ralph Lauren. And I've always been fascinated by the element of service. I've always loved service. I've loved, you like feeling nice and you like treating people well, right? So when that all goes into a little cocktail shake and you shake it and you come up with what I had, right? So the look and feel of the shop, right? So the light bulbs in the mirror, right? That was always, for me, it was to give the impression of somebody getting ready.
Yeah.
Right? So you can imagine your Frank Sinatra's, your Dean Martins. All those years go back in the Flamingo Hotel, right?
Yeah, I love it.
And that was it, right? But I've been to Vegas many, many times, right? And it's gone now. There was a hotel called Circus.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember thinking...
I had 30 of us staying that for my stag do.
But I remember seeing Circus for the first time. It was actually on Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
This Bond movie. And I was always a big James Bond fan, right? And I remember when I went to Vegas the first time to see it, it wasn't particularly to see that, but I remember going down to Old Vegas and seeing that. And I remember thinking, that name is spectacular. It's a great name, Circus, right? And if you remember, the sign was written in light bulbs, right? So, again, it was just something I admired, right? But then when I was opening the shop, I was trying to think of the name. What do I call this fucking thing? I mean, I knew how I wanted it to look, but I didn't know what to call it. And then I was kind of keep looking back and kind of thinking of Vegas, and I was thinking of all these things to come up with a name. Thinking, do you remember Circus? Next thing, it's going to hit me. Fucking Circus, Barber. And I had so many fucking shit names. Wasn't even funny. Thank God that worked out, right? And it was no frills. It is what it is, and it does exactly what it says. That's where the name came from, was Barber, and I didn't look left or right after that. I knew that was the name. The service point of view is, it's self-explanatory. I wanted to get away that attitude of we're superior to you as as a customer. I wanted to welcome people, and it's cliched. Everyone says it. You treat people how you want to be treated and all that kind of stuff. But service was for me first and foremost. You know what I mean? Being accommodating to people. You know what I mean? But also, ripping out the weeds very, very quickly. Making sure people weren't confusing service with civility. I mean, that was the big one for me, right? Yeah. The big one was
good line.
And I'm notorious. You can ask any of my lads. I'm notorious for telling fellas fuck off. You know what I mean? So I'm not, this meek little, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. I'm very, very happy to give a service, and I knock your socks off with it.
Yeah. But when you go into somewhere, I go into some shops, some bars, some restaurant, and just the attitude of it makes you want to stay, and equally makes you want to leave.
Yeah. But listen, we're not for everyone either.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone is welcome, but we're not for everyone, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because some people don't want the barber to take control. Some people,
is that a hard bit to teach though? When you've got new people coming through, I mean, presumably with your apprentices, they're born in it and they know it, they breathe it.
Yeah.
But newbies, is that a hard thing to cope with?
For people to have the balls to do it the first time. Do you know what I mean? But then you got to understand, you got to train them in a way that you can't kind of digress back to that just because someone's annoying you.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of awkward customers. Doesn't make them bad.
No.
They're just fussy. I have no problem with fussy. Do you know what I mean? But fussy, they're still appreciative of what you're doing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you go to a restaurant, you're fussy. Doesn't mean you're a dickhead.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But you're coming in here, you can pay $100 quid for a meal.
You're dropping some dough, you want to feel like you got it's appreciated.
Yeah, and you can ask for things that aren't provided politely. Or something you can ask for something that you've expected that you haven't gotten. And you can ask for that very politely. You don't need to be a dickhead about it. And if you're a dickhead about it, you need to be thrown out in your arse. Yeah. So, like, some of my customers, like, I have literal, actual, physical billionaire customers, some of them, right? Lovely people. Fussy as fuck.
Yeah.
Of course they are. They're billionaires. Of course they're fussy. I've other guys that don't have 2 pennies to rub together, right? There's other guys who've come into the shop, not 2 pennies to rub together, and they're dickheads. Out you go.
Yeah.
We've all had rich guys.
Yeah.
Being dickheads. Out you go. Don't get me wrong. We're not throwing everyone out.
Good and bad and all of them.
We're not throwing everyone out, but we are very, very.
Yeah.
We're assertive. That's the word. We're quite an assertive bunch of lads, And
are you quite happy at the moment?
No, I'm miserable.
But you got the stores. I mean, we are where we are business-wise.
Yeah.
But we've been. You've been in the game for 20 years.
30.
30.
Yeah.
Still happy in it?
I love it. You know what I mean? And I think it's something that you either love it or you.
Yeah.
Hate is a strong word, but people do it for the sake of doing. That's fine. You can treat it like a job if you want. But I do. I do identify myself very, very strongly as a barber. Do you know what I mean?
And you were down. You cut hair today? You were coming up to Shoreditch. You pop in.
I was in there last night and I was in there this morning, and I'll go back to this afternoon, but I won't be cutting hair today. I try to get home.
Nice walking in there.
What's that?
Do you like it when you wander into your stores?
Yeah, love it. I mean, I kind of work in Hale quite a lot. I do a little bit in Leeds. Leeds needs attention at the moment. There's no point lying. But every time it's like spinning plates. It is spinning plates. And Leeds is the one that needs the most attention at the moment. So I got to put a bit of time into that.
Yeah. Is that for all the normal reasons or
staff?
Yeah, just staffing.
Just staff. I mean, it's just you can sit here like across the couch and kind of talk shit and say everything's perfect. It's not. No one's having a perfect
that's why
time.
I like when I like this, to be honest, and I know the fact that I try as many guests as possible to stay on the straightforward.
I think everybody is struggling. I think everyone is struggling. And
I mean, I've been doing it now. I've had stores since I opened my very first store in '91.
Wow.
And this last two years, I think, has been the toughest business.
I think so.
Absolutely ruinously hard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got my scars and I've got my burns, and I know, and I've been and I've seen and I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly that. We're all playing, the sensible boys are playing last man standing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It's definitely an out of 30 plus years. I think this year is my 30 year of barbershop and salon ownership. Definitely the hardest.
I think 2007, 2008 was quite hard. It's similar to what's happening now. If you remember, I don't know, in Ireland anyway, it was it was the second wave of people going out on their own. So the first wave of people going out on their own was me, 2003. That's when fellas started to kind of clip their wings a little bit and move out from the really established shops.
Yeah,
right.
The first new breed.
Yeah, because the guy I worked for, he was third generation. There was 3 other barbershops in town were third generation. So you were afraid of your life to open a shop. So that you get pushed out to the suburbs. That's where I opened in Castletroy, and then some of the lads who worked for me, they went out on their own. They went further out again, and all of a sudden you had loads of shops, but there was only one guy, possibly 2, working per shop, and that's when it seems quite similar now. How many shops do you know that are one-share bangers? Or people inside in studios?
Everyone I speak to is saying exactly the same.
Yeah,
Johnny, so glad you made it, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Appreciate it.
We could go on around, and I'm sure, I'm sure there's a bar waiting for us to solve the rest of the problems.
Well, that's the thing. The problem is, right? That's why the world is in such a bad state, right? Because the only people who know how to fix it, pulling pints, cutting hair, and driving taxis.
On that note, thank you very much for listening.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Noble Barber Podcast. We're always looking for interesting people and interesting stories. If you know someone or you are someone with a great story that you want to share, get in touch and come join me on the sofa. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time.